Hey everyone, grab a seat, get comfortable, and let's get right into today's explainer. I'm so glad to see all of you. Today, I'm going to be your guide at the whiteboard for a topic that is absolutely vital for your middle school writing. We're talking about sequence and order connectors. These are literally the magical little words that take your essays and stories from being a totally jumbled mess to a perfectly organized masterpiece.
Okay, let's dive into this. We're going to take a slow, step-by-step approach today. We'll start with a quick welcome to the lesson, look at starting with first, move through our middle steps using a real recipe, wrap up with lastly, map out first versus lastly, and then, finish up with a quick class pop quiz.
All right, Section 1, Organizing Our Ideas. So our main goal today is figuring out exactly how to organize our thoughts, whether you're writing a history essay, a creative short story, or just jotting down daily instructions. Organization is everything, right? Sequence connectors are simply words used to organize ideas, show the order of events, steps, or points in a process. They help listeners follow information logically from beginning to end. I want you to think of these words like traffic signals for your sentences. They tell whoever is reading your work exactly when to start, when to keep going, and when to stop. Without them, well, your readers would just get totally lost in traffic.
Moving to Section 2. How to begin, starting with first. So the crucial point is how first introduces your very opening action. It's usually followed by a comma, and it perfectly sets the stage for whatever process you're explaining. Let's look at a few examples. First, wash your hands before cooking. First, let's begin the lesson. First, I would like to thank everyone for coming. First, let's discuss the causes of pollution. First, choose a topic for your presentation. And first, open your textbooks. See how natural that sounds? It gets us started without any confusion.
Now pay close attention here, because this is going to seriously upgrade your essay writing. There's actually a pretty big difference between first and firstly. First is much more common and conversational. It sounds totally natural when you're talking to your friends, like, first, let's begin the lesson. But firstly, that is far more formal and academic. You're going to want to use firstly when you're turning in a formal middle school essay to me. For instance, firstly, let's examine the evidence. Notice how it just sounds a bit more, professional?
Naturally, once we have a first, we definitely need a second. And just like we saw in the last slide, second is great for everyday speech, while secondly is your go-to for formal reports. For everyday speech, you'd say, second, start cooking. Second, we need to consider the cost. Second, students should improve their writing skills. But for those formal essays, let's elevate the tone. Secondly, the proposal is too expensive. Secondly, exercise reduces stress. Secondly, the project requires more workers. See how these words just keep our ideas marching in a neat, orderly line?
All right, on to Section 3, Middle Steps and Our Recipe. Let's move things along.
Once we've started our essay, we are right in the thick of it. We need to keep the momentum going. The word next shows the following step in a sequence, and it's absolutely perfect for instructions and processes. Check these out. Next, prepare the ingredients. Next, add the sugar to the mixture. Next, we will discuss the solution. Next, turn left at the traffic lights. Next, open the document. Next, gather information from reliable sources. It's short, it's punchy, and it tells you exactly what to do immediately after the last step.
We also have two more fantastic middle connectors, then and after that. These words move the story directly from one action to another. For then, we have mix the ingredients, then bake the cake. Finish your homework, then watch TV. Then, organize your ideas into clear sections. And for after that, we had lunch. After that, we went shopping. Complete the form. After that, submit it online. She finished work. After that, she met her friends. These are just absolute gold for tying events together in your stories.
And this brilliantly illustrates exactly what we've been talking about. We just took all of those disconnected words and built a real, functioning class recipe step by step. Read it with me. Step 1. First, wash your hands. Step 2. Next, prepare the ingredients. Step 3. Then, add the sugar to the mixture. Step 4. After that, mix the ingredients. Step 5. Finally, bake the cake for 30 minutes. And Step 6. Last, serve the meal. Notice how effortlessly we can follow those instructions? That, my friends, is the power of sequence connectors.
Moving to Section 4, wrapping up lastly and reaching the end. So, every good essay, story, or recipe needs a super strong conclusion. Two of the most common words we use to bring our points to a close are finally and eventually. Let's look at finally. Finally, add the cheese. Finally, bake the cake for 30 minutes. Finally, deliver your presentation confidently. Finally, the team reached an agreement. Now let's hear eventually. Eventually, they found a solution.
After several delays, the plane eventually departed. Both of these show that we are at the finish line, but they actually mean slightly different things. What's really interesting about this slide is the tricky difference between these two words. Finally is the last step in a sequence, focusing entirely on the order of things, like finally add the cheese. Eventually, on the other hand, means something happened after a long period of time or maybe after a bunch of difficulties. It focuses on time and the result. For example, after years of practice, he eventually succeeded. So just remember, finally is about order, eventually is about time.
Section 5. The first versus lastly map. Let's look at the big picture.
Imagine I'm mapping this out right here on the whiteboard for you. On the far left side, we have first. This is our ultimate starting point. You use it in casual speech and writing. First, wash your hands before cooking. But then, all the way over on the right side of the map, at the very end of your formal academic essays, we have lastly. This is the formal conclusion. You use it primarily in academic writing and presentations, like, lastly, we must consider the environmental impact. First is how we kick off the chat. Lastly is how we formally drop the mic.
Okay, this quick summary table right here, this is your cheat sheet. It has literally everything we just learned. You can see how first and firstly introduce the steps, next and then show what comes immediately after that and later push the timeline forward, and finally and lastly bring the whole thing to a close. Take a mental snapshot of this, because it's going to be the perfect study guide for your next big writing assignment.
And finally, Section 6. Time for a class pop quiz. Let's test your knowledge. All right, go ahead and close those notebooks. Let's see who's been paying attention with a super quick, fun pop quiz. And don't worry, this isn't going on your permanent record. It's just to see what's stuck from today's explainer. Question 1. Which connector should we use to show what happens immediately after another action in a story? Next or then? Think back to the middle steps we talked about. I'll give you a second to lock in your guess.
And the answer is then. Great job if you got that one right. Remember, then is super common in narratives and stories to show what happens afterward, like finish your homework, then watch TV. Next, on the other hand, is usually better when we're giving a strict list of instructions.
Okay, question number 2. Which connector is the most formal choice for concluding an academic essay? Last or lastly? Think about the big picture map we drew together. Are you talking to your friends here, or are you handing in a paper to me?
The answer is lastly. Fantastic work today. You remembered that adding that "ly" at the end makes the whole thing sound much more academic and formal. Perfect for a sentence like, lastly, the report discusses future challenges. I am incredibly proud of your focus today, guys.
Let's move to and see how this builds into one final golden rule. First, next, then, after that, later, finally. This right here is your golden sequence pattern. If you ever find yourself stuck while writing an essay or a story, just follow these arrows. It's a totally foolproof way to organize your ideas so that absolutely anyone reading your work will understand exactly what you mean in the exact order you mean it.
So, as the bell is about to ring, I want to leave you with this final thought. How are you going to use these sequence connectors to make your next essay, story, or recipe flow perfectly from beginning to end? I want to challenge you to use at least 3 of these connectors in your very next homework assignment. Start paying close attention to how they guide your reader. Thank you so much for joining me at the whiteboard today for this explainer, and honestly, I can't wait to read your perfectly organized writing. See you next time.